We begin tonight with our justice correspondent, Scott MacFarlane, who's here with me at the family table. Always good to see you. I want to play for you sound that I know you're familiar with, but I want my audience to know what the president said earlier today about what may or may not happen legally to James Comey, the former FBI director. Listen.
I can't tell you what's going to happen because I don't know. You have very professional people headed up by the Attorney General, and Todd Blanche, and Lindsay Halligan, who's very smart, good lawyer, very good lawyer. They're going to make a determination. I'm not making that determination. I think I'd be allowed to get involved if I want, but I don't really choose to do so. I can only say that Comey's a bad person. He's a sick person. I think he's a sick guy, actually. He did terrible things at the FBI. And but I don't know. I have no idea what's going to happen.
Scott, what's the state of play?
So the people who will decide are people we'll never know the identities of. They are grand jurors in the Eastern District of Virginia. They meet on Thursdays. They meet till about this time, around 5 o'clock, and they will decide if presented with the chance to issue an indictment, whether to issue an indictment. And it's not a guarantee. Even if the Department of Justice seeks a prosecution, they're going to get a prosecution. We don't know what type of case they would be making against James Comey specifically, but we do know the previous U.S. attorney was ousted for not going forward with the case against James Comey, and that was somebody who was appointed by Donald Trump himself. So there's some type of issue with whatever they're trying to bring, and it manifested itself with a changeover atop the Eastern District of Virginia.
So let's go back in the Wayback Machine, folks. September 30th, 2020. Comey is testifying before a Senate committee. This is part of what happened at that testimony.
What Mr. McCabe is saying and what you testified to this committee cannot both be true. One or the other is false. Who's telling the truth?
I can only speak to my testimony. I stand by what the testimony you summarized that I gave in May of 2017.
So your testimony is you've never authorized anyone to leak. And Mr. McCabe, if he says contrary, is not telling the truth. Is that correct?
Again, I'm not going to characterize Andy's testimony, but mine is the same today.
Scott, walk us through what that is or might be about in terms of legal consequences, potentially, for the former FBI director.
Start off with the logistics of it. That was back when we did Zoom interviews for congressional testimony. 2020 was quite a year. He was testifying from his home in McLean, Virginia. That's why this case is going to manifest itself, if it goes to indictment, in the Eastern District of Virginia. That's where he was speaking from. If people are wondering what Virginia has to do with this. If there's a case to be made about a false statement to Congress, it sounds like a simple case to make, but public integrity prosecutors I've been speaking with through the course of the week say it's a very difficult case to make. To try to show intent to mislead the legislative branch is an arduous, ambitious case. And let's remember what the U.S. Justice Manual says. You only bring a case if you're confident you have the evidence for conviction, not probable cause to get an indictment, to get a conviction and to have that conviction withstand an appeal. That's such a high threshold, which is why this has seemed so far-fetched for so long.
I opened the show by saying President Trump has had many rhetorical flourishes against James Comey. We have what we call in the trade a mashup. Play it.
He's a leaker. I did a great service to this country by firing James Comey. Had I not fired James Comey, who was a disaster, by the way, it's possible I wouldn't even be standing here right now. Terrible person, did terrible things and persecuted people, and all in the guise of being an angel, but he wasn't an angel.
Does any of this matter if there is a case brought against the former FBI director?
It's a great question. Let's look at this from the center field view of the baseball diamond. You have this case filed against you. It seems so distant whether you'd be found guilty or not guilty. But what happens between the run from center field to the diamond is the problem. The expenses of a lawyer, the bandwidth you lose in your life, the arduousness, the stress. Bringing a case against someone can be penalty enough to some people, and I think that's part of the issue here. If you bring a case against somebody, suppose it doesn't matter the disposition if you have so much trouble in the meantime.
And might a defense attorney look at that rhetoric or some of the other things more recently said by the president and say this was not prosecution by the facts and law, but by a predilection of a sitting president?
I think you'd see a printout of his Truth Social post in which he declaratively says we need a prosecution of James Comey. Defense lawyer may have a hard copy to hand out to the jurors.
One other thing I want to get on the record for our audience. Logistically, Tuesday is an important day. Explain why.
That's the 5-year mark of that Zoom testimony we saw with Senator Cruz and James Comey. There's a 5-year statute of limitations in this case, so there has to be a decision whether to fish or cut bait by Tuesday.
And if it doesn't happen by Tuesday, a case cannot be made?
It seems a case can't be made, it certainly can't be made federally, and in this case would then therefore be irretrievable for the Trump Justice Department.
Scott MacFarlane, as always, a pleasure, sir. Thank you very much.